Freedom fighters, I'm back with another one. Today's video topic is going to be the monopoly on violence. And I'll probably start out with a disclaimer because it's going to get spicy. But this video is not intended or should not be mistaken to incite or encourage, nor do I support any violent or unlawful actions. We're just having a discussion here, and I want to get your opinions on stuff. But I'll get to current events here in a bit, but I was remembering a old interview I saw one time with Dan Bongino. You guys probably know who Dan Bongino is. A well-known TV show host. I think he does radio shows now. I'm pretty sure he's the one who went off and created Rumble, or he's at least affiliated with Rumble in some way. But back when he was working for Fox News, he was doing an interview with Hawk Newsome, and he's a BLM leader. I can't remember if he was one of the founders or not, but if you look him up, you Google his name, you'll probably have seen him before in the front of crowds with his bullhorn and, marching through the streets, leading groups of protests. But Dan Bongino was asking him this question, trying to get him in an obvious gotcha question. And by the way, I in no way support Hawk Newsome or his organization, but I did agree with his answer here, and it was a really good answer. I mean, just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean you can't agree with them sometime. If he said, hey, what's your favorite food? And he's like, Hawk Newsome likes bacon cheeseburgers or pizza. Be like, hey, we can get along there. But Dan Bongino was trying to get him in a gotcha question, and he said, do you support violence? Yes or no? And he was like, well, that's it's a loaded question. You really can't answer it like that. And he was like, no, answer it, yes or no. And Dan was like, I'm not a violent person. I don't support that. But then Hawk gave a good answer, and he was like, well, do you not support what happened in Lexington and Concord? The founding fathers of this country were violent. This country was built upon violence. And what about 9/11 and the response after that? Did you not support that, Dan? And, he went off. I can't remember the exact, you go look up that interview if you want to see it. But I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And Dan Bongino, by the way, was a Secret Service agent. And he protected Barry, by the way. So, if someone so much as took a run at Barry or reached into their pocket for a cell phone or something and looked the wrong way, Dan Bongino would have probably thrown a right hook at the very least and laid somebody out in the protection of Barry. So, yeah, totally for violence. But, on to the current events. I saw Mark Levin recently. He's been going nuts. And I remember back a while, I was watching his radio show. And a caller called in. And I'm pretty sure this was during the election. I can't remember exactly how it came about. But a guy called in. And he was like, yeah, things are looking real bad. We're headed for a civil war. And we need to get ready and all this stuff. And Mark cuts him off. He kicks him off the show and goes, huh? What are you talking about? We don't do that. That's what they do. I don't do a good Mark Levin, but I don't do good voice, impressions anyway. But he's like, you're not MAGA. We don't do that. That's what the left does. This and that. And I'm like, okay, so Mark's a pacifist, right? He doesn't like that stuff. Okay, I understand. Well, as soon as Israel gets attacked, he's gone off the rails and he's ready to go to war. And he was posting stuff the other day on Truth of Palestinian and Iran leaders. I can't remember who the guy was, But he posted, this guy should be put down like a rabid dog. Now imagine you posting something about that, about any police officer or something like that, Officer John Doe, or insert any politician, congressman, senator, mayor, governor, whatever, John Doe, needs to be put down like a rabid dog. You're probably getting a knock on the door. But it's okay for them to say it because it's government sanctioned violence. And that's the point I'm getting to, is it's okay when they do it. Or it's only okay in certain reasons. And I'm sure you've heard the saying before. I never really understood it. Well, I understand it, but you've heard the saying, you never hit a woman. And I know what it means. You get raised that way, and it means you never abuse a woman, and you never take advantage of your situation of being a man, being bigger and stronger. And are these gender appropriation stereotypes here? But yeah, you never take advantage and you don't abuse a woman, is what it means. But you do realize there are women in federal prison for violent crimes, right? There are women in gangs, there are women, psychopaths and murderers, just like there are men. That movie Gone Girl with Ben Affleck? Um, she lures this guy in bed and, during the deed, like pulls out, I can't remember what it was, if it was a part of a bottle or a box opener, and slits the dude's throat. But what if he saw it coming and he was quick enough to react and he grabbed her arm, flipped her over and socked her in the face? Would it be okay to hit a woman then? But yeah, and I forget who said it. It was pretty good, but they said it's like a multiple choice question. You got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, and you got multiple choices. Violence may not be the correct answer, but it is an option. And again, to the disclaimer, that's not saying anything. I'm just using it as an analogy. It's not the solution, but it's one of the choices. And don't for a second think these people aren't okay with violence. They're all for violence, but they own the monopoly of violence. It's only acceptable for them. They hold the baton, and they're never going to pass that baton. The baton is never for you unless you wear their uniform and badge. Then it's acceptable. And it depends, because veterans, they recently came out and designated vets, a high threat designation, and I'm pretty sure they even came out and said like white vets. These guys living out in the woods, and these guys are dangerous. And because they took the time and trained them to be warriors and the best soldiers ever, and to go fight on their behalf. But the moment that they come to the conclusion, or they wake up and realize who their real enemies are, and they try to wield that violence that they were taught inward and go fight real enemies, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when they no longer want it to happen. And that's why I don't blindly support the military and police. There's the whole big Back the Blue movement in our, group or whatever you call it. And it's like, these people are just order followers for the state, and they enforce violence for the state. As soon as a politician puts, the pen to paper, and as they say, the pen is mightier than the sword. I've actually coined, the pen is the sword. They write down unconstitutional laws saying you can't have this, you can't have that, no more 30-round magazines, or this is banned, that is banned, and they put that sword to paper. their badged uniformed thugs go commit violence on their behalf to enforce it. So again, they're fine with violence as long as it's on their behalf. They have the baton, you don't. It's not for you. Travis from the Prepared Homestead did a good video a couple weeks. It might be in like a month ago or something. It was called "Why Hasn't There Been a Revolution?" And you could probably go look that up to Prepared Homestead. Why hasn't there been a revolution? And he talks about the events in J6 and their overreaction to J6, calling it, an insurrection and all this stuff. And when it really was just people touring through the Capitol taking selfies. And, their reaction to it was because there was a lot of veterans in that crowd. And there was a lot of people who could have done, took some actions. And that was the first time they got scared, like, uh-oh, they're coming for us. And that goes back to Mark, a civil war, once you figure out, like, no, we're coming for the people who wronged us. No, you can't do that. But as soon as Israel gets attacked, the violence is all fine and well over there. And, Tucker just did a report as well, on X, where he was talking about Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham and, the whole neocon, rhino establishment. They're all in for it. I mean, they were in for it with Ukraine, and now they're in for it with Israel. I mean, Lindsey Graham was in the beginning saying just straight up, take out Putin. He's just like, he's done. This doesn't end until Putin is gone, is generally paraphrasing what he said. Nikki Haley was out there on some show, this weekend saying, finish them. Hamas, again, back to turn them into a parking lot and clear them out. They're all for violence. It's just not for you. Yeah, and like I said, Mark Levin is all in on it. And we got clashes within our country. There's been protests, pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli, in California and New York and Florida. I've been seeing videos where, one side of the street is Palestine, the other side's Israelis. And I'm like, what do we got going on in this country when we got two people fighting for other countries? And that's what we should be looking out for. It's America first. Looking out for America's issues, but we got tribal warfare from countries that have been at war for hundreds, if not thousands of years, since biblical times, going at it. But again, we can't focus on American issues. They're fine and, happy and dandy to send you and your children off to war. But again, as long as it's government sanctioned and it's government approved, then it's okay. Kind of going off on the ramble here, hitting some off-topic stuff, but yeah, I wanted to know what you guys think about it. Looking forward to your comments, but yeah, you know what I always say, we are on our own. No one's coming to save us, so get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.